What up, everyone? Tin Man with the Resistance. If you're watching this, you are the Resistance. And boy, it's an insane fucking week in Washington. Okay? The media is reporting that Trump is gonna declare martial law on Hitler's birthday, which is April 20th. And, granted, they have nothing to really back that up, but here's a kicker. Today, and actually it was yesterday and today, Candace Owens and today on the Alex Jones show, they were talking about what is being referred to as a third Patriot Act, and this would suppress people's free speech, and it's basically serving as, quote, anti-Semitism, and what it effectively would be doing would be penalizing free speech that is, quote unquote, unfavorable to Israel. So basically, anything that is not pro-Israel would be considered hate speech and basically the same bullshit that they're pulling in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to thinking about that. Okay, if this is true, because I don't know if this went into effect or whether this is still in the proposal stage. Can somebody clarify this for me? Has this proposal been brought to the table? Has it been voted on? And if it has been voted on, did it pass? What are the details regarding this third Patriot Act against anti-Israel speech?
So, I don't know if it's been tabled or passed or all the good nonsense, but what it does appear to be would be, got to find the right words. I don't want to offend people. I don't want to say this stupid shit out loud.
No, you just don't want to go to jail. Like the rest of us, we don't want to go to jail.
Right? So, you know how like people used to watch things like Alex Jones and so on and so forth, and then they'd be like, well, how'd that motherfucker know? And you know what I mean? Like he just knew kind of thing. What if I told you that Alex Jones isn't like a prophet or a seer or anything like that, but that he's just a master of reading the writing on the wall?
Yeah.
Right. So like it's shit that like us back in the day, we would have been a bit younger. We would have been outside the circles knowing.
This is what I'm tired of, man.
What? What, Grandmaster? What are you tired of? Did he go mute?
Not sure.
I don't know. But I'm going to pick up where I was. If such a legislation passes, the left is predominantly anti-Israel. That's where you get a lot of the negativity, at least from what I understand. I know there's a lot of it is, well, from the right, Alex Jones, Candace Owens. In fact, Candace Owens was the one who broke it
Here's
initially.
the thing, man, again, I'm going to say it too again. It's bullshit. It's clickbaiting. It's been used to scare people.
Yes, it's that or the setup.
Same. It's the same exact.
It's the same exact nonsense that we've been hearing all along. But it was reported on Alex Jones this morning. I don't know where Alex Jones was. I think it was Owen that was hosting the show this morning. And he was saying, and I believe it was the third hour, about the government looking to pull college funds. I guess the United States government throws a lot of money towards colleges, especially the higher end universities. And it's been proposed that if these anti-Israel protests don't stop, if they don't stop pandering to that, then the U.S. government is going to cut funding to that and cut tax exempt statuses to that. I don't know the finer details. I believe it's a tax status. They don't pay, these universities don't pay any taxes. So I believe, if I remember correctly, yeah, it was the United States government will pull universities' tax statuses if they don't stop with this narrative. Now, that's a big problem. You know, Owen, you know, he on Alex Jones, he was sitting there talking like he was actually for it. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're for suppressing free speech on college campuses, but where this new Patriot Act would come into play, that's where you draw the line, as if it's not all the same fucking thing. And I only heard bits and pieces of it. Unfortunately, I was outside mowing my lawn this morning, so I have to get that done, because I kind of live in a community where it's kind of like a homeowners association thing. You got to get this shit done. So I tuned in as best I could. I had the show playing on my phone, and I'm sitting there listening to it over my mower, and it seemed like he was actually for suppressing the free speech of these college campuses and whatnot that's going on at these universities. And I'm like, okay, so you're for this, but you're against this new Patriot Act that would penalize free speech that is unfavorable to Israel. I'm sorry, but that's very hypocritical, because that's all on the same fucking boat. You know,
See, I'm trying to remain very quiet, and I'm listening to what you're saying. And so, you know, when people look at us and be like, well, how does your mind work? Like, for me right now, as we're discussing, it's the first that I hear of certain things. I've been out of it for a few days there. It is what it is. But now that I have the information, I'll give you the thought process as it's happening in my brain in real time.
go for it.
Okay, so there's a third Patriot Act. Okay, cool. Whether it's existent at this time or not, what I want to know, the next step here, what I want to know is there a time limit, quote unquote, like a timeline where this particular law or bill would have to make it to the last signature's desk? Okay, so let's say, for sake of argument, from the moment this is introduced, it has to reach legal assent, we'll say, inside of 6 months. Is there such a thing? Is there such a timeline? Why is that important to my brain? Because the nature of the Patriot Act and the nature of the legislation that they're discussing, it's a gag order. It's
Effectively, yes.
All right. So now I have to ask myself deep down inside, why would I need something like that? Right? I'm the guy in charge, right? So why would I need something like that? Now, we're back in kind of backtracking. One of the reasons why we wouldn't have caught this play, how old were you when 9/11 happened? Because I was 19.
I was 17. Young, so, yeah.
Right? I was young, dumb, full of comment, and I knew nothing about anything in this regard, right? So, but what we do now know today as adults is that right after 9/11, and this is one of like the corner pillars, and like I understand why religions make fucking dancing illegal, okay? Because right after 9/11, there is the story of the dancing Hebrews. I didn't make them Hebrew. It's not some media twist, right? They were the first initial prime suspects of 9/11. Them, their entourage, their surroundings, what they were involved with, the access that they had, the items that they had. And we're not going to get into a 9/11 theory, but we all know about the art students that planted the bombs. The blast caps came off at the lower before the towers were falling. And
yes,
it was these individuals. Now, they had Israeli passports. They were cut. They were sent home. They did great press releases out there. If you want to find more about this story, you got to look inside of the Israeli local media, and you'll hear the 5 dancing Hebrews tell their story of 9/11. And this is where we find out that they said that they were there merely to document it. Well, how do you document something that you don't know is about to happen?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so it gets very
Unless
fishy.
you got the inside track.
Right. Now, this information, it caused a huge international political upheaval when it comes to bare bone basic support for Israel, because they had the hook in, they had the foothold for, oh my God, like, we know that Israel attacked, I believe it was the USS Liberty, and there's a risk here that they might have attacked the Twin Towers just so that they could unleash the American military onto the Muslim population. The very theory that I just put on this platform live here right now is the reason why that Patriot Act needs to be created. So why does the Patriot Act need to be created if it's going to subdue that kind of speech, which is the speech that I'm delivering at this exact moment, just tying in a few extra dots that don't really make sense, right? The only reason why you need that, you're about to be
Which is
attacked.
really interesting you say that, because there's also a big push for them reopening investigations into 9/11. That all broke this morning as well.
Well, what
So
happened
it's
on
very
9/10?
interesting you brought that point up,
What happened on
because who's the
9/10?
finger going to get pointed at in that instant?
Yes, but remember what happened on 9/10. What did they announce on 9/10? We all talk about 9/11.
I don't recall that. I was a junior in high school when that shit went down, so I
Ready?
don't know what happened on 9/10.
You ready? I'll tell you what happened on 9/10. When I tell you what happened on 9/10, you'll know why 9/11 happened. On 9/10, they announced that they were going to audit the Federal Reserve.
Ah.
Right?
Yeah, I know that the owner of the trade towers, he did a lot of shit with his insurance in regards to the towers a few days prior to that, and a few days prior to 9/11. I did not know about the audit about the Federal Reserve, but that would make sense as to why the Pentagon got hit, because and would have subsequently destroyed most, if not all, of those documents.
That's right. So this entire theorization aspect that we are doing right now, just based on 9/11, which was too many goddamn years ago, we're about to see it again. We're just due. I can't tell you what it is. I can't tell you when it, because I, hand to God, do not know. But if I look at the timelines and I look at the ups and the downs and the ups and the downs and the ups and the downs, we're on a down, we're coming to an up. We're just due. Theoretically, like it's about to do the influx. Now, is it going to do it in 10, 15 years? Is it going to happen in 15 hours? I don't know. What I do know is that Donald Trump just has to say a few nasty words and the market goes up and down and up and down. And I think the rest of the world is kind of getting upset with that. So the problem the United States is going to have quickly is not, are you going to get attacked? Who's the one that's going to fucking do it? Because back in the day, there was a quote unquote level of peace where if something happened to the United States, you could almost immediately say, no, that wasn't Russia. There was a long time, like from Clinton and on pretty well, Russia did a lot of spying. I'm not going to say they're innocent and that they're angels, but like their whole like desire to intervene and take over and like the whole like fucking violent aspect of it had subsided to it while we were children. There was a reason why our grandparents and our parents just stopped being afraid of Russia. And then all of a sudden 9/11 happened, and now we got like terrorists that we got to worry about, right? So even then we didn't blame the Russians or the Chinese or the Koreans or insert, you know what I mean? Today, this is the problem the United States has faced, and I think Donald Trump knows this, and I really think that that's what the tariffs are for. I don't think Donald Trump is putting tariffs up because he wants your money. I think he's putting the tariffs in because he needs certain nations to sever ties from them. Because right now, the United States of America is granting, and this isn't some like high pedestal fucking anti-allied rant there. This isn't, no. We're just breaking down the information, right? The United States militarily protects Israel, it militarily protects Taiwan, it militarily protects South Korea, it militarily protects Canada. Okay, awesome. If any of the United States' enemies seeks to do harm to the United States, all they have to do is attack one of the allies. And then it kind of shakes up the American economy. But now if the Americans decouple themselves from these high-end military contracts that they hold, what happens then is that the enemy is forced to attack a lesser choice of ally, because there's not as many choices, or the American homeland. Now, for instance, in the case of China, China won't attack Canada. China won't attack Canada. They won't invade. They won't. We already got signed documents with them. I used to rant the shit about it back in the day, in the early stages of the resistance, because I used to talk about how NAFTA was United States and Canada, and then there was this other one that was Canada and China. Well, whatever happens, it doesn't really matter. Canada and China are economically locked in, and at the time, it was 36 years. So from when I said that way back then, that's when the clock started, because that's when they had signed the document. And to get out of it, you had to be like a minimum of like 20 years in. And I think it takes like a 10-year or a one. It's a fucking long ass amount of time. And we're locked in economically with China. So they're not going to want to do anything militarily to us. The United States, it wants Canada to revamp and do our borders, because the United States doesn't want anything trickling down from here, because they know that we have open trade negotiations with China. And the truth is that we're right next door to Alaska and Russia and Alaska, and then bam, into Canada. And if you really look at the Canadian map, we have a huge percentage of the Arctic Circle and the Northwest Passage, which we discussed last time. So when it comes to like global trade and all that stuff, the United States doesn't want to like decouple from us, but they don't want us to be friends, because if we're not friends and we're not allies, attacking us to hurt the States is of no value. They want to hate us to protect us. I'll be the bad guy that's needed. Batman, the Dark Knight from Batman. I'll be the bad guy that's needed. That's what Donald Trump's doing right now to certain countries, where it's just like, bro, like, I love you, man. I love you so much that we can't be friends right now because they're hurting my friends. So that's because we're talking like 4D chess, and we're talking nations, not just a couple of people at the bar, right? So, and then we got NORAD, and we got the missile defense systems, and like, yes, Canada opted out for Star Wars, but when we opted out for Star Wars, the United States had already agreed that like, just because you opted out doesn't mean I'm not going to protect you. I'm literally in fucking space, and we're on the same rock. Like, it's easier for me to protect the continent than it is for me to protect the country. So I'm just going to protect the continent. And Canada said thank you profusely. And like, there's a reason why we're always nice. I'm going to tell you why Canadians are always nice in the largest and highest grand scope. You will never, ever be able to accuse Canada of picking a fight that it couldn't win with a country that was too big, and then had to run to the United States, be like, could you please save my fuck up? That'll never happen. We leave our country. We try to stay humble, meek, nice. We do the very best that we can not to ruffle feathers, because when the real bullets fly, we are the bloodthirsty motherfuckers. I will stand in front of 1,000 Americans that are there to make sure I'm safe, but I'll slit everybody's throat to keep those 1,000 Americans safe. Like, just don't worry. We don't want to go to war for nothing, because if you pay very close attention, Canada doesn't have enemies, because Canada's enemies are either dead or set straight. I noticed that. Right? We don't have to worry about them coming back and causing harm to the nation. And these are not words of national humility. Just look at the history book.
It's just a fact.
It's just a fact. We're just mean. We're actually very mean people. But like, you don't need to be. Like, we can be kind and humble, and we can do all those things. And it's important, because you never want the United States to be like, I'm tired of digging Canada out of trouble. You know, like Israel. Right? We're both allies. We're both equal. But like, we didn't start a war with Russia and then go like attack the White House and then blame Russia, which is what Israel did on 9/11. They fucking took down the towers, and then when the United States asked them who did it, they pointed their finger at every Muslim nation around them. And the problem is that the evidence is there, the facts are there. The only thing is that people just have to read it. But this is where cognitive dissonance comes into play. Well, then why the fuck would the Jews do this to us? What about Hitler and the Nazis but why? Why would this happen? And then you have no choice. Then you're a World War II revisionist. Why was Hitler mean? Why did he hate the Jews? Why did the Jews have to die? Why do we have to send all of our fucking children to go and save them? Why did we not? Why did they sell it to the kids that you were going to save them? But like Hitler literally said, like, yo, I got a bunch of Jews, and if you want them, you can have them. And every country was like, nah, bro, we're good. Like Canada had a none is too many policy. We are not innocent from this, right? So why the fuck are they not allowed in the country, but you're gonna go kill for them?
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw a video recently where a rabbi was sitting there talking about Israel in other countries, and they've been banned in the vast majority of countries in the world in the past 2,000 years since Israel fell to Rome. And the rabbi was asking him, going, okay, we've been kicked out of all these freaking countries, the vast majority of countries around the planet, except for like 4 or 5 or 6 countries. At which point in the past 2,000 years do you go, okay, maybe I'm the problem? My question would be, if these legislations come into play, is it still, quote, anti-Semitism when your own fucking people are saying, hey, I'm a Jew, we're the fucking problem here?
Now you understand.
Is it still anti-Semitism? Is it still hate speech? Does it still violate Patriot Act, dick in your ass number 3?
Well,
Do you now deport the Jews for not being pro-Jew?
You got to be careful because they got terms out there that's called like self-hating Jews. Like that's a term. Okay, you want the joke? You guys are ready to understand the joke. I've said it many times in the past, but you're ready to actually understand it. Tell me, you ready? What does Jesus Christ, Alex Jones, and Adolf Hitler, what do they all have in common?
Both very outspoken.
They're all Jewish men. They're all men of Jewish descent that went against the Zionist agenda. That's what they have in common. That's fucking abhorrent. That's why I keep saying that if Hitler couldn't annihilate the entirety of the Jews, then the Americans are not allowed to even attempt at annihilating the entirety of the Muslims. But see, we played with language and played with words, and now we call Muslims terrorists and we call terrorists insurgents, and everybody gets lost in translation, but we're just fucking killing people. That's it.
What I was saying last week. I don't know if you got to see that roundtable, but I brought up that very topic. Donald Trump needs to pass legislation that changes the evolution of language, because that's what the English model is the evolution of language. We have English today is not the same as English 200 years ago. American English is not the same as British English. We need to get back to formula here. We need to get back to the initial foundation of what these words actually meant. You know, we need to get back to the basis instead of ever changing everything, because what a word means today could mean something completely different tomorrow. You know, that's why Alex Jones got himself into so much shit. The whole premise to that was what? He said 9/11, or not 9/11, he claimed that Sandy Hook was a false flag. Now, what false flag meant was that, you know, government-sponsored terror. But they changed the definition of a red flag or a false flag and said that he was implying that Sandy Hook never happened. They went and changed the fucking definition of that phrase. Mm-hmm. One word
Yeah,
And
just
the
one.
changing of the definition of that word got Alex Jones in 7 years of legal trouble.
That's all it took. Just a
Yep.
word. And
Yep.
so we're going to circle
And
back.
it's
So
not even the word; it's the fact that they changed the definition of the word. So we
right.
need to get back to basics of what the English language initially used to be. Yeah, you're going to go back to old English saying thy and they and all that shit. But you know what? At least you'll be able to understand each other.
Hey,
I'm not going to be
when
talking to kids going, "What the fuck are you saying?
no,
What
look,
is
just put them.
based?"
Using the English that Shakespeare used is like I don't know, it's like a 2,000 word or extra or whatever to the dialect. It's like, man, I'll tell you this: there's more genders out there than words that you're going to have to add to the dialect. So you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
So circling back, the question was
Fire.
simple, right? The question was simple. Why would the United States need that kind of Patriot Act 3? Why would you need that? And it's
To cover their
literally,
ass of what really happened and who was involved.
it's not what happened and who's involved. No. It's worse. You guys need to enact that
Deeper down the
because
rabbit hole.
it's worse because when I said it, when Master Evan said that it was clickbait to get people worried, I absolutely agree. But the flip side of agreeing is I would have to disagree. And if I'm going to disagree, why the fuck am I disagreeing? And this is the only disagreement that I can put forward that holds any form of rational water that's not a wasted debate. And it is that they would enact this legislation, prior to a known attack. The legislation comes in, the attack gets hit, and as the evidence comes out, which it always does, that Israel is attached to it, we already have the gag order in play. Trying to institute this after an attack, like they did, like 9/11 happened, and then the Patriot Act 1 came out, right? So intitulating it after an attack is not unrealistic either. But the information that the shit is drawn up, ready to rock, and just needs a few signatures on it to make it happen is insinuating to me in a very,
Something's gonna pop off.
yes, in a whole trust your gut, this doesn't look good kind of situation, is that we don't write laws about shit that don't exist. Remember, like when we're talking about the UFOs and stuff, and like, dude, like they're real because the United States government has laws that says that you can go to jail and get a fine if you interact with one. You don't write a law about something that doesn't exist. This has been written. There's man and woman hours attached to this. There's labor attached. Someone got paid. Lots of people got paid to make this. This is going to happen, and that's bothersome.
Oh, I'm also thinking it could be used to further attack the left, because what is Elon Musk initially? He was Jewish, right? He may have converted to Christianity originally, but he's essentially a Judeo-Christian in the most literal sense.
Yep.
So, to be attacking Elon Musk and his property and painting swastikas on his car, they're effectively being Nazis attacking a Jew.
Yes.
At which point you pass this new legislation. I mean, we already have hate crime laws, but this would really give those hate crime laws razor sharp teeth.
Yes, it
At which point the left get a major fucking bullseye on their back, as well as many people on the right who are Israeli, who may be seen as Israeli detractors. And at which point, what if people on the right, like Alex Jones and whatnot, been talking about for the longest time, and it's been said since the last election, if Trump gets back in office, they were going to kickstart a racial civil war and secede from the United States in order to force Trump out of office and collapse the economy, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if this is the catalyst? What if it's not the racial war we were thinking? It's not against the migrants coming in. It's not against the blacks because nobody's buying into that bullshit anymore. What if they change direction and put it on the Jews? It's like, let's use the Jews again as our pretext. And nobody's going to say shit against it because of what Adolf Hitler did. Nobody wants to be tied to that stigma. So, yeah, they're going to go with it. And this legislation passes, civil war sparks.
Was it Chris Rock that said it right after 9/11? It was like, bomb all those terrorists, bomb all those ragheads. And he goes, and at this point, I just sat down and calmed down and said nothing. The whole crowd got quiet. He goes, because niggers and Jews are next. And he knew it. He knew it. They went after the Muslims, and they called them terrorists. Not too long after, it would become bastardizations of a movement that we all called Black Lives Matter, as if we didn't know that it mattered, which literally fucking brewed up a race war inside of the United States for a period of time. That, honest to God, if there wasn't a pandemic going on at the same time, your country probably would have burned. Because there's a lot of people that still stayed inside, whether they're afraid to walk outside because there was too many protests or they're afraid of a fucking bug is irrelevant. A lot of people still stayed inside. But if there was no pandemic, you would have had far more traffic in those high traffic zones, and your protests would have got so much uglier, so much quicker. But they went and played the race war. And here we are on the prejudicial religious side.
Yeah. They can't play the Black Lives Matter anymore because all that's been exposed. The migrant issue has already been addressed on large scale. So who else do you have? We don't have the Muslims. All we have are the Jews. Okay, we got to protect the Jews. We got to love the Jews because the Jews were oppressed by Egypt, and Adolf Hitler tried to exterminate them, even though there's a hell of a lot more to that story than what's commonly known, blah blah blah. So we got to protect the Jews. Oh, you can't talk bad about the Jews. And I'll talk bad about it. My uncle's Jewish. I used to work for a synagogue. I'm what you would consider a Judeo-Christian. Okay? Why the fuck else would I have a menorah in my freaking house? And shit like that, okay? It ain't for show. Hey, I would celebrate the Festival of Lights more than I would celebrate Christmas at this point. Okay, so I think to sit there and say that I would essentially be anti-Semitism, you know what? Suck my dick backwards and buy me a fucking milkshake. I'd like strawberry.
I think we're AIP, and they're going to make AIP racist. The AIP would be anti-Israeli policy. It's not a person; it's the governing aspects of the country and what they're doing. I'm not a big fan of this. It used to be over 2 million person. Now it's like a 1.8 or 1.7 million person open air prison that we all call Gaza and Palestine. I'm not a big fan of that. When I read about the Holocaust and the concentration camp, wasn't a fan of that either. So it's not my opinion. I'm anti fucking camp, right? Regardless of who was sitting and who's taking the showers that day, I'm anti camp, right? So it's
definitely.
Right, and I can say the same thing about Guantanamo Bay. Like, I'm not a fan of that. And like, if I ever find out that I have one in my country, well, I'm probably going to go to jail because I'm probably going to be the one that's going to fucking sabotage it. Because I don't like that. It's not cool. It's not proper. It's not the way
humane.
It's not humane. Everybody's focusing on trying to become a future human, and everybody forgot how to be a fucking human. Like,
yeah. I'll agree with that. You know, why the fuck do we need to go to fucking Mars? We can't even get our shit right on Earth. You know, until we can get shit right on home, I don't think we need to be going into outer space unless we become like what Star Trek would classify as the Tartarian Empire. I don't know how many are familiar with Star Trek. There was a movie called First Contact, and it takes place in the past after World War III. And we wind up having first contact with the Vulcans. And in the movie, the creator of the warp drive, I can't remember, Cochrane winds up making first contact with the Vulcans, shaking their hand and whatnot. But in an alternate universe, and this was played in the series Enterprise, in an alternate universe, in an alternate timeline, instead of shaking the Vulcan's hand, Cochrane blows the fucking Vulcan away. They steal the technology, and over the course of several centuries, wind up conquering the known galaxy and
Well, that-
suppressing
right.
all other alien races. Do you really think with the way the world is right now that we need to be going to outer space? We'd be the Tartarian Empire.
Yeah, no, we belong where we are. There's a reason why we can't fly. Oh man. So yeah, so it's like they're going to exacerbate the religious side. Now there's a reason why they're gonna go after the religious side. There's a reason why they're gonna use the Jews, because that's the hot topic, that's the open wound, that's the da 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 da. But what would be the end game of doing something like this?
Maybe civil war.
Nah, civil war is only one aspect of what's going to be used to get to the definitive end. But the definitive end of this would be an abrasion, a very serious abrasion on what we would call human faith, right? Like it would, regardless of who you pray to. I think something happens to the human soul when you take a moment and you start to kill for your God, and like you start doing that on national levels and like crusades and hundreds of thousands of people just. We're about to enter a very, very interesting dark period, because a lot of people speak of the dark ages and all they have is the remnants of what was left of what they can find. But we don't really realize exactly how intelligent the society was entering the dark age. As the lights went out, when the lights go out here, I'm not going to get any stupider, and neither are you. So we're going to enter the dark age with a specific amount of information that we're going to pass down. And as it's passed down, that shit's going to get lost as it does. It's just the nature of things. Well, if this goes into the religious direction and we apply freedom of speech laws that like removes, right, missionary work, regardless of what you're preaching at the door, the aspect of missionary work, the speaking of the good word, however good the word is and whoever spoke of it, these very bare bone aspects that religious structures use to build themselves up as an organization, which ends up helping like one community, which later helps 2 communities, 10 communities, and now like a whole state has now been taken care of because this is done a certain way. Tralali, tralala. There are bare bone aspects that, like, because like raw deal, man, the Christian faith is the most anti-Semitic faith out there. Our entire religious doctrine, if studied adequately, will tell you that the Jews used the Romans to kill Christ because it was the Sabbath. Okay, that's the oldest war tactic. You know when else I saw that? The last time I saw the Jews use the king of the time to kill their enemy because they couldn't do it themselves, 9/11. And it's about to happen again.
Whoa. Whoa, you took this a direction I had no idea. Oh, wow.
That's fucking
So
horrible.
this is what's going to be used to bring down the Christian belief system.
As a whole, because Christians, and you can't do it on a race base, because who's the most Christian person in the United States? Black women.
Yeah.
Black Christian women are not going to hate on white Christian families. It's not going to happen, and they're not going to teach their children such a thing. He who prays to the baby Jesus is loved by the baby Jesus, and every black home knows that. Therefore, the white home is protected on those grounds. So you have to. So you can't play a race war amongst Christians. That don't work.
So they have to have the Jews.
There has to be a religious bigotry war that they have to foment, and Christians, we want to be the heroes. Jesus is a hero, bro. Jesus died for the sins of the world. We're heroes. We can't annihilate the Jews and we can't annihilate the Muslims. But what happens if they fight each other? Fuck, I don't know. Do we stop it? Do we pick a side? Do we impose peace? Do we kill them both and call it a fucking day? What do we do? And nothing about that is a positive conversation. And those are the conversations that are held at the highest political level, because behind every religion has money, and behind money is some sort of political power.
Yeah.
And it's fucking sad.
So the race war, the racial civil war, would be the essential annihilation of the Christian race.
They would try. But see, you ready? You ready for the grand fuckery of it all? Do you know why it's quote unquote always the Jews? I'll tell you why. This is the raw deal. So I covered how that beautiful black Christian family is not going to hurt that beautiful white Christian family. It's just not going to happen because they're Christians, right? Okay. Do you know why the Muslims aren't going to hurt the Christians? And why the Christians aren't going to hurt the Muslims? Because both of them actually believe in the Virgin Mary, in the virgin birth. They actually believe that in the end days, it will be Jesus that has the battle, the army. Muslims and Christians both believe that the prophet Isa, Jesus Christ, will be the one that carries the fight to the devil. Both of those religions believe that. Yes, they have a theocracy and a divide between Muslims and Christians. But this is the divide. Easter.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Easter is the Muslim-Christian divide. Muslims believe that Jesus was the best prophet to ever walk the earth, equal to Abraham, Moses, Noah, all of those badasses. They believe that he was the best among them, but that when he died, just like them, he died. There was no resurrection. The Christian faith says, yeah, but bro, man, you didn't see the 500 people that Jesus taught after he resurrected. You didn't see the holes that were in his hands, all these things. You guys didn't see that. All you saw was Muhammad float a rock, and Muhammad's message was 500 years after Christ was crucified. So 300 years after Christ was crucified is the Council of Nicaea, when Rome, government, and religion put themselves together and they make a power structure that enslaves the world. You know it as the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, the Muslims came out 500 years, so 200 years after the Council of Nicaea, and they were telling the world, you're doing it wrong. That's not what Jesus spoke. That's not what he taught. They took his words and flipped it and used it as a weapon against you through the Romans and through the Catholic Church and through tralala. So this is some very anti-Christian fucking talk here, and I do apologize. But the Muslims are trying to tell us we're doing it wrong. Okay, cool. So I looked into it all. And when I found out that Easter was the difference, I agree with the Muslim there was a man who had a bunch of Christian crusaders in front of him, and he had them as his prisoners. He had the right to put these men to death. And he took his staff and he drew a line in the sand and said that their differences were as small as this line and that there will be no blood shed on that line, that it wasn't of value. That because they believed that he came from Immaculate Conception and they believed that he was coming back to save the world and be the one that was going to do it, that Muslims and Christians would be brothers until the end. So white people and black people ain't going to hurt each other because they're Christians, and Christians and Muslims ain't going to hurt each other because they love the Virgin Mary and the baby Jesus and he's coming back. That's a lot of religion in about 20 minutes. That's like the deepest level of religious theocracy that you could possibly wrap your brain around. You could spend 10 years studying any one of these. But that's the bare bone basics of it all. So is there a religion that exists that did not like Jesus? Yep. Is there a religion that exists that put him to death? Well, they didn't do it. The Romans did it. Okay, cool. Is there
Even though Pilate was the one said, you go put him to death, I wash my hands of this shit.
That's right. And then here's the fuckery of it all there, okay? Is there a legally protected book that is of religious nature that speaks of Jesus in an ill manner? Yes. The Talmud says that Jesus is in hell boiling in human excrement. That is not a positive.
I do not have a copy of the Talmud. I do have the Tanakh, which is just the Old Testament.
Yeah. The Talmud is like
but
70
I have not read the Talmud.
Yeah, it's hard to read. It's like reading the Encyclopedia Britannica. It's like 70 some volumes. It's very, very large. You have to go to a synagogue, have a rabbi. It's on YouTube. Like there's a rabbi that walks you through it on YouTube.
Oh wow! I'm gonna have to look that up.
right? It's just the thing is that those videos are there for Zionists. They're there for people who agree. So to them, that's not controversial information whatsoever. That's just what we talk about at the dinner table. That's just how it is. Literally why mothers lose their ever living fucking mind when the beautiful little Christian girl is marrying the Jewish man, because like on the back burner of the religious construct. And that's why people are like, well, religion doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. Love is love. And I get it. But y'all are about to read a book and burn a book at the same time, because those two religions are so opposed to each other. We are not talking Christians and Muslims anymore. We're talking something that really, they don't jive, right? And then here's the big problem. The Muslims and the Christians agree, and the Jews at no point agree with any of them, aside from the fact that they all read the Old Testament. Yep. Okay, cool. Yeah, well, I read the Old Testament. I read the New Testament. I've read the Quran. I've read I'd say the Torah, but I've read the first 5 books of Moses in the Old Testament, so I got that covered the first time around, right?
Yeah.
So, and then
the Torah is the first 5 books of Moses. The Tanakh is the complete Old Testament.
Yes. Now I'm going to tell you the origins of the Talmud, because everybody's like, why does anybody give the Talmud any credence? Like the heights of it, right? You guys know the story of Moses. There was that one guy. He like parted the ocean and shit. Cool. And then they got to a mountain, right? And then he climbed this mountain. Okay. Does anybody want to tell me what happened at the top of that fucking mountain? Because if you don't know, I'll tell you.
Spent 40 days with God.
And what happened?
Burned the top of the mountain. And that's where you got the Mosaic Law, Leviticus.
The 10 Commandments.
Yep. Like I said, the Leviticus, the Mosaic Law.
Perfect. Okay. Why is of that any value? Okay. Here's the origin of the Talmud. You ready? Here it is.
Yeah.
The Talmud comes from about 79 elders that were not welcome at the top of the mountain, you see. And they were politely asked to wait at the bottom. Now, for those who are faithful, for those who choose to believe in a Christ and a Creator and all the good nonsense attached to it, you're going to tell me that the big man was present. He was writing his law with his motherfucking finger on some stone bricks, talking to this one dude at the top, and you want me to believe that the shit that 79 pieces of shit at the bottom of the mountain wrote is more important
than what took place at the top.
Right. The Talmud's origins is a oral Torah that had been passed down from generation to generation to generation, which began from the elders that were at the bottom of the mountain. Now, what happened when that one motherfucker that was at the top of the mountain got his 10 commandments, had this amazing discussion with the Creator, like, this is how this shit fucking goes. Thank you for getting me out of captivity. That water trick was awesome. And you want me to teach him this? You sure? Like, this is only 10 things, dude. You sure? Yeah. Go down there to those motherfuckers at the bottom. Yeah. And teach them those 10 things. What happened when Moses got to the bottom of the mountain?
He had 3 tablets, and he saw them sacrificing to a golden calf that his brother Aaron helped them make. So he smashed one of the tablets, but we still have the 10 commandments. Wah, wah, wah.
And what was his commandment? He destroyed a tablet. And what was his commandment to those who was paying attention?
I'm not sure where you're going.
Ready? Oh, you're gonna love it though, because Moses told these individuals at the bottom of the mountain to go forth and legitimately kill each other.
Yeah, like they wipe out like 3,000 of them or something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so Moses got the 10 commandments from the Creator himself, came to the bottom of the mountain, gave them to these dudes, and then they were doing what they were doing. And he told them to go and fucking kill themselves because they couldn't be saved. And that's the origin of the Talmud? You want me to fucking believe that book? You want me to follow the teachings of that book? That can't be proper.
Yeah, but, it's amazing that so many Jews will follow that. So many Israeli people will follow it. And
And that's why our disclaimer.
I've been following Grandmaster and Queen's conversation in the private chat, and
Yeah.
you guys are right. AI is going to be their God. That's
Yeah.
what it is. They're not
And
waiting for the
that's why you
Messiah.
need
They're going to,
the-
I
that's why
think
you
they're
need the
creating
abrasion.
their Messiah. They're like, we're tired of waiting. The Jews are tired of waiting for this so-called Messiah. We're going to create this Messiah, and and the Messiah will manifest itself through artificial intelligence.
And there's nothing more Zionist.
Whereas Christians will believe that that is the Antichrist system, and possibly even the Antichrist itself, or at least the image of the beast.
And I think you're closer with that one, because these things take a ridiculous amount of time to manifest, right? Like when you read things like scriptures, nothing's happening today and then the repercussions happening tomorrow. This is like something happened today, and like in 100 years, some horrible shit's going to be God's retaliation kind of thing. Rarely does he smite thee, right?
Yeah.
So that's why they need a religious abrasion. Because if the Christian faith and the Muslim faiths were to ever shake hands, the Zionist side of the Hebrew faith would be destroyed and decimated. And this is why you have good, God-fearing, Torah-reading Jews in every country of the world. These are not your enemy. Do not use my words to go hurt people at a fucking synagogue inside of the United States and Canada. These Jews
don't hurt them anywhere.
These are the Jews that happen to understand that their country was taken from them, from their God, and their God told them, you are not allowed to have a country, and you are not allowed to accept one, even if one is granted to you. The good, God-fearing, Torah-reading Jew that is being a good citizen in a country that they know full well is not their own, that's not your enemy. This is someone that you love and you protect. These are the fucking people that we hid from Hitler.
Yeah, and the majority, and that would be the majority of Jewish people, even those who live in Israel and have returned to Israel. Those are still good people. Like we said, there's good and bad in everything. And yeah, Israel, especially in terms of its government and those who work in the shadow government, who aren't just Israel, they're Satanists, they're Catholics, there's Christians, there's Mormons. I mean, you figure there's all walks of fucking life of people working behind the curtain to make Oz a reality, to hold up the image of the big head of the Wizard of Oz. Okay, there's a whole mess of people behind that curtain of all walks of life. There's good people and there's bad people. You can't just say it's all Catholics. You can't say it's all Jews. You can't say it's all fucking Freemasons. I mean, most Freemasons are just local people living in the community hanging out at the freaking club. But when you get to the higher echelons and the top 1% of people, there are people from all walks of life sitting there beating their fucking meat to child porn going, we're going to destroy the world. We're going to destroy the world. Those people are your enemies. Just like Tom McDonald was saying, white people are not your enemy. The whites that you need to worry about are the Bushes, Rothschilds, and Royals, and so on. And so it is with all walks of life. I don't care if you're black, white, Jew, whatever. There's good and bad in everything. Yeah, the Israeli government has got some corrupt people in it. Let's just focus on them as by name, not because of their nationality, not because of their country of origin, and not because of their religion, but because of who they are as human beings who have sold their soul on the altar of satanic pedophilia, human extinction. That is where I will leave it. There is no anti-Semitism there. Let's just look at the people who are at fault because they're people at fault.
It's what it is. It's like I said. It's policy. You gotta, if it was the Americans that was doing this to fucking Mexico, I'd be anti-American policies. If I was
but you
doing
wouldn't be anti-American people.
No,
Because for a fact there are good people in America.
fucking
Just because
right.
your government does something bad doesn't mean the people are bad.
No, and that is going to be that's the silver lining that they're going to have a hard time squashing, because the problem when a world war happens. I don't know if very many people have paid attention and realized, but when world wars happen, border lines, well, they don't really matter anymore. We'll redraw those when the war is over.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So
everybody just wants to play the whole "my God's got a bigger dick than your God," and now we're just creating fake robot gods with giant fucking horse dildos on them.
it's an interesting thing. I've been looking into some really fucking crazy shit though. Like,
I'm just trying to articulate what Queen and Grandmaster are saying. You guys have been very quiet in the chat, but I am trying to quote you guys in the private chat that you guys are talking about. I don't want you to feel excluded. If you have something you want to add, but by all means, please chime in, guys.
So I could send you guys on a different little rabbit hole. It's kind of like it would be considered like a break, like a vacation from the norm.
Well, like I said, even Bernie said.
Bernie Sanders, what? I think Grandmaster's got a serious lag going on his end.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, during my research
Oh.
here, when you guys wanted to know about the Third Patriot Act,
Yes.
even Google's AI says it doesn't exist. It's misinformation.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
only
but just be-
Third Patriot Act is in the bill itself, and that's for money laundering around the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's officially declared as Patriot Act number 3. That's just what it's being called by those who would oppose it. People like Alex Jones, Candace Owens,
Christian
Joe Rogan,
propaganda.
so on and so forth. I don't know if that's the official document.
It's a save the motherland propaganda.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be
Somebody out there will know what we're talking about, and they'll be able to quote it. So anybody watching this video, if you have the exact title of this proposed document that we've been referencing, please reference it in the description. And if you got any links to back that up, by all means, share them.
Yeah, you'd be looking for bills that hinder free speech. Instead of putting the word
anti-Semitism laws, anti-Semitism legislation.
Yeah. People like to put the word Patriot Act on rules, laws, and regulations that have nothing to do with the Patriot Act. Like Grandmaster Evan said, purely for the clickbait. Because Patriot Act is sold to the American truth seekers and other conspiracy theorists. The Patriot Act is sold as a form of Nazi-esque laws. So when the laws appear to be draconian, although they don't have anything to do with the Patriot Act, those people in our circles will label it as such, and nothing about that is professional, and nothing about that helps people like us who are actually trying to find out whether or not someone is trying to hinder free speech.
Yeah, so you have this legislation. Trump just passed, or at least is looking to pass, the National Digital ID. Alex Jones has been very outspoken about that. He went completely bonkers about it on his show, and I told him straight up, like, look, dude, you need to sit down and you need to go to the White House. You need to accept that invitation. I posted this on Twitter. I showed you guys the screenshot of that Alex Jones needs to accept the invitation to go to the White House, needs to sit down have a briefing and just lay it all out. Just give Trump a battle plan. It's like, okay, here's the New World Order. This is how it all played out. This is how it came to be. This is what its plan is. Yada, yada, yada. And this is the battle plan. This is their battle plan. This is our counter battle plan. Give the motherfucker a step-by-step game plan of how to defeat the New World Order. Contingency plans in case they pull this, that, or the other. Just give him a full freaking debrief and just give him a freaking shopping list of what he needs to do. Because either he is
at war with it.
Say again?
What if I told you Trump was already at war with that?
That's what these. But here's the thing. He's doing this proposed Patriot Act 3. He's doing the national digital ID thing. He's like all for that. And, these are two things that are like big no-nos to most American people. This is what we put him in office to oppose. Mm-hmm. And now he's moving forward with it. So it begs the question, is he really for us, or was it just a ruse to perpetuate globalism in a different direction than what we initially thought it was going to be, like I've been saying? Or is it he just really doesn't have a fucking clue, and it hasn't clicked in his brain that there are people within the government that he cannot trust and who are going to continue to try to push this agenda by way of his ignorance? And that it's essentially, he knows the New World Order exists, but when it comes to globalism and how it works, he doesn't know the difference between a rainforest and a Pop-Tart. So at which point, if, let's hope, this guy is on our side, and the American people didn't elect this guy and just flush their vote down the proverbial Nazi toilet, and, let's get this guy on track.
It's the unfortunate part.
In the event that he's not, or he's just a willfully ignorant fool, then if it does lead to civil war, how's that going to look on the American continent? How's that going to play out? And that was the direction I was initially trying to take this, because if we do enter a civil war, this is something that needs to be addressed. And we can get back to what you were talking about in a moment, Connor, but this is something I want to bring up. Grandmaster, are you able to bring up images on your end? You have a thought, Grandmaster. Go ahead.
No,
you can't bring up images.
I'm good. I've been wanting to say this for a while now, since the beginning. No. I want to say this real quick. Their AI is not God, for one thing, but they will use it for sinister means, as in, say, for example, 2020, 2022, we dealt with COVID, the pandemic. Now, this one is completely fucking different. This is a cyber variant of the pandemic. It'll be cyber through AI. Now, they've been trying this since they came out with ChatGPT. ChatGPT is under. I mean, if you think about all the different AI shit, it's nothing more than a cyber monster with teeth, with no leash.
Yeah.
Now, I've done some research the last 5 years, and I learned some new things within the last 3.5 years. Now, a friend of mine in New Hampshire is a whistleblower with the TSA, but I will not mention her name for safety reasons.
Yeah.
The TSA for beginning, they've been a problem since day one. They don't care about the workers. They don't care about you as a public. if you work at the TSA, you will get cancer, bar none, big time. You know, this is part of the Patriot Act. Is the TSA bullshit since day one. Now, if you're a whistleblower, okay, or someone that sued the government, I mentioned this during the first roundtable. The program was created by Robert Duncan. Okay, he authored the book Operation Soul Catcher and How to Tame a Demon. The program is to gang stalk, coordinated gang stalking of citizens who are whistleblowers, journalists, and whatnot.
Yes.
This is going completely nationwide. This program is part of 2.0 of MK Ultra. 2.0. Back in the 60s, they had MK Naomi and MK Ultra 1.0. This here is MK Ultra and MK Naomi 2.0.
This is sad.
Yes.
And they implicate by using AI in this program. Now, for the longest time, we all thought that Robert Duncan was dead. He ain't dead. He's alive. He's alive. And second of all, Sandy Hook. Ladies and gentlemen, let's lay our cards out on the table right now. Nobody's fucking dead. Nobody died.
Yeah.
Sandy Hook 13 years ago was a how you say it, a kind of a one of those tests.
Yeah.
What would happen if it did happen? Where's the ambulance, folks? Where's the ambulance? Did the ambulance?
Yeah. And careful, you might wind up in court with Alex Jones.
If did it, how come he died? How come he was dead 2 days before, along with his mom? Why did the coroner resign? They came back a month later.
I mean, we can get into all that if we want to in another roundtable.
The ambulance that died in.
I want to do a deep dive on that one next week.
They won't tell you that shit.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, because I always played on the context of the school shooting happened,
all this shit,
and the government used it as a ploy.
We're dealing with click baiting bullshit. Even today, even now.
Yeah, and I think it's all to try to start that civil war. Because if you get the people pissed off enough to go, oh shit, they're trying to take away our free speech. Oh shit, they're trying to implement this digital ID. And then, you elevate everybody's tensions, and then boom, there's a catalyst that just sets everything off, like a terrorist attack, like Connor was saying, or even something more simplistic, like they were talking about with, killing migrants or something. And it leads to escalating from civil unrest to a civil war. And they were already talking about doing that this morning. Or not this morning, the past 4 years.
They shot and killed one dude, and a whole world war erupted over that.
Yeah. Now,
if there is a civil war.
Yeah, if there's a civil war, it's going to be a problem. And this is where I'm going to take point here, Grandmaster. I'm not trying to cut you off.
If there was a civil war, this civil war, this civil war is a war where there are no bullets fired at anybody.
Not yet.
There's no lives taken. No one's wounded. There's no prisoners. It's of the mind.
Well, if they try to make it a literal war, if they try to make it a literal war like they're talking about, it's going to be a big problem.
An ideology.
Yeah. Well, what they're talking about is a
No,
literal
no,
civil
no, no,
war,
no.
violence in the streets kind of
It's not
thing.
going to be no war. Well, this here. Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
the thing
and
is, the only violence you'll see is at the south of the border. If there was
Yeah.
a civil war, it'll be a different type of civil war. It'll be like the Cold War 2.0.
it wouldn't even be like that. I mean, here I want to show you guys something. And I'm going to take point here. So watch this. Solo layout.
It's chess.
Look at this map. I'm going to try to zoom out a little bit.
Yeah.
Look at that map. Okay, if we have a civil war, all these states, these conservative states, are not conservative states, liberal states, if they secede from the Union, they're all isolated from each other. You have no way of establishing a supply chain. You cannot establish a supply chain from California to New Mexico or to Illinois or to Virginia or New York, Maine. You can't. All these states are occupied. Guess what? Washington, Oregon, California, all surrounded by red states. Colorado, New Mexico, completely surrounded.
Shut up. Where'd you get the map?
What?
Where'd you get the map?
This was on a Facebook post.
Okay, put the map back on the screen. Look at the map.
Yep.
Okay.
What do you got?
Dude, why? Okay, I get it. I'm not an idiot. This is a separation between blue states and red states, and I get that. Okay.
Okay.
If you pay attention, all of your nuclear silos are damn near whited out. That almost looks like a map of a surviving United States after a nuclear strike.
That is a possibility. But like what I was saying, okay, you have, by this map alone, they're surrounded by red states. They're not going to be able to establish supply lines, for one.
Yeah.
Two, all the military bases in these blue states, especially after the Biden administration and, this woke culture and whatnot, the majority of your military personnel that occupy the bases in these states, they're all either Republican from that state or they're from out of state in Republican areas. They're conservative. So you're not going to have the military on your side, at which point you've got several beachheads in your territories. And you can't look to the police to help you because you've already gone defund the police and are anti-police and everything. So the police aren't on your side. So you've got the police, the liberals will have the police and the military against them, and they'll have several beachheads by way of previously established military bases, many of which, as you pointed out, Connor, have military strike capabilities. Okay, the California shipyards. Okay, March Air Force Base and near Lake Paris. What is it? San Diego. Camp Pendleton in San Diego. Yeah. That's not going to bode well for a civil war. I mean, it worked fine when you had North versus South and you had a clear, distinct line, but
that's scary.
Yeah, it's not going to work. I mean, yeah, you can have civil unrest and you can secede all you want, but basically it's just going to be lighting off a firework factory. It's going to be quick, painful, and okay, we're done. It's not going to bode well. And at which point I would say, if it's something that's going to lead into, cyber attacks and global power outages, cutting the power in the United States, like it's been perpetuated, I would strongly suggest that people who live in these states get the fuck out, like yesterday.
Yes, and I'm glad that you said that because you're on civil war footing and I'm on nuclear war footing after I see that map, because this is the problem with that's the reason why I interrupted you so robustly, is that holy fuck, like, that was the first time I actually looked at it. Because do you know what would be really easy to do if that was all that was left of the United States? Enforcing free speech laws. Not a lot of
Yeah.
people to police if that's all that would be technically left.
Yeah. And, those blue states, the red states aren't the only ones with nuclear strike capability. And and I will forgive you cussing me out. By the way, fuck you on that one. I'll throw it right back to you, brother.
Right?
I love you, but fuck you.
You're
But yeah,
supposed to.
I get why you did it. So it's all good, bro. I give you shit for it, but
Thank you
I get
kindly.
why you did it. That was a very important point, and I thank you for making it.
Oh, and look into it, because they're not like not every white spot is a nuclear silo. Like everybody's got them peppered throughout the nation. But I was like,
Yeah.
dude, like if that's what the United States looks like, and here I am going on saying the United States is about ready to get attacked, and none of us can say for sure if it's going to be a simplistic 9/11 or like a straight up mushroom cloud, here go goodbye fucking Los Angeles. Like nobody really knows. And then I saw that map and I was like, where the fuck did this map come from? I'm like, who leaked this shit? Like,
Yeah. That was posted, I think, either Facebook or Twitter. I say things all the time to make points in future broadcasts and whatnot. I've been aiming to do this talk for a while because, I've got plenty of friends in California who would be very negatively impacted by a civil war. I mean, if you have the state of California, even just the state of California, secede from the union, guess what? They're trapped there. They can't get out. I've got a friend who's looking to move out of the country with his fiance. He kind of became a passport bro. He's got a sweet little honey in the Philippines. He's looking to eventually move out of the country to the Philippines with her, or her move here and then they retire in the Philippines or whatever. I'm not sure exactly what their game plan is, but that's going to be impossible if if California secedes from the union and then they have state lockdowns.
yeah, it's going to get crazy. We should
Yeah.
definitely examine. Let's give it one more week. Let's see what the politics do. Let's see how close we get pushed into conflict, and then we'll rehash again. I gotta cut it short. I got to get back up to the family. But
Okay,
again,
you go ahead and do
profuse
that.
apologies.
I'm going to continue on for a little bit here, and you could just catch up later.
Absolutely. We will.
Okay. So
I love
again,
doing
thank you for making your point, but fuck you for cutting me off. So, but I love you to death, brother.
always, and I do apologize for that. I just was like, what the fuck
It's
am
all
I
good, bro.
looking
I
at?
completely understand.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and you enjoy the rest of the evening, my friend.
You too. And we're going to go back to
There.
exit the solo. There's a lot of factors that come into play with this Civil War thing. If you've already got the economic crisis in California. California, in fact, like most blue states, has been run into the fucking ground. And regardless of whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, I don't care which side of the fucking fence you're on. I don't care if you got a fence post shoved up your ass. If you live in these areas, especially in California, and you're looking at the way things are, obviously it's not going well. Okay, you're not in a prosperous state. I looked up rent for apartments in my hometown just out of curiosity a couple weeks ago. And most everybody knows I hail from Hemet, California, San Jacinto, California. The cost of a one-bedroom apartment in California, in Hemet, California right now, is $1,200. I live in the state of Tennessee. I own a 3-bedroom house. My rent or my house payment, $725. Okay, you're going to tell me I can buy a 3-bedroom house in the state of Tennessee for $725 a month, but to rent an apartment in Hemet, California, which is fucking ghetto as shit now, is starting at $1,200 fucking dollars? That's insane. Okay, and in an economy where jobs are virtually non-existent, you got one job for every. I think it's like, at least when I left, it was 100 The statistic was 100 applicants per one job opening. And you're going to sit there and say that property value is worth $1,200 for a one-bedroom apartment? I can suck a fart out of my ass. Okay, and what's in California that's so goddamn worthwhile? You got a shit ton of golf courses, you got Disneyland and a few other theme parks, and you've got the beach. Okay, you can visit the beach for free. Okay, not exactly a property value thing. Okay, especially when you're living inland and they just had a fucking 6 point something earthquake. What was it, yesterday, Grandmaster? You guys had quite a shaker there yesterday. Why what
Yeah.
on God's green earth makes anybody think that it's of any value to live in California and charge that kind of money to live in a shit box?
And
It's insane.
especially when they're making the prices of food go up too.
Yeah.
Well,
Eggs, a 12-finger eggs, $10.
Well, I mean,
it would have
I
to
thought-
be the.
Go ahead, Grandmaster. Go ahead. Go ahead, Grandmaster.
The absolute real reason is that, it's these real companies that are, like, for example, about right around January, February, that SoCal fire happened. And then Gavin Newsom had a backdoor talk with some realtor guys and over the
Palisade
train.
properties. Yeah.
The train, and that got leaked out like within the hour. And he allies himself with people that are willing to brown nose for extra cash, and whoever had control of whoever had the control of the realty market, you basically have the state by the balls.
Yeah.
Financially.
And it's insane.
Some are renting houses up to $1,200 a month. Between $1,200
renting houses up to $1,200 a month. I mean, that's pretty cheap. In contrast,
rent was like $400-$500.
No, that's
a month.
just one
and
for
that was not too bad.
Studio apartment.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Because I live in a tourist city, and a house alone can be $3,000 a month.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The cost of living, even with multi-income houses. I got a friend in California.
My son's mom.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off, Grandmaster. This probably expands on your point, but you got the cost of living that's, say, a 10, right? I've got a friend who's living in California. They have a single income, which probably puts them right about here, probably about a 3. Even if they had a second income, that would probably only put them at a 6 or 7. You're still not going to meet the capita to meet the overall monthly expenses that were required. You need 3 or 4 incomes just to be able to live in a single house, a single, maybe 2-3 bedroom house. You'd need at least 4 fucking incomes, 3 to 4 incomes, just to barely make the expenses. Seriously, anybody in California needs to get the fuck out. It's a sinking ship. And those who are staying there, effectively, I'm sorry to say, I love everybody I know who lives in California. I love you all. But y'all need to get the fuck out. Staying there is effectively, you're using a mop bucket to try to keep the Titanic from sinking. And if you stay on the Titanic, it's going to sink and you're going to die. And it's going to suck. Okay, and if we do face civil war conditions, or we face a nuclear conflict with Russia, guess who's going to get hit first? It's going to be the Western states, California and Washington and all those coastal states. They're going to be the first ones hit because the Russians and the Chinese, guess what? They're going to be coming from the east. They're not going to go through Europe and Africa and the Atlantic Ocean. No, they're just going to straight shot across the Pacific. It's like, hi, California. Bye, California. You're all fucked. And even if it doesn't happen that way, if things get out of hand and civil unrest, guess what? The entire state goes on lockdown, and then you're stuck there. Ain't nobody on the outside can get you out, and you sure as hell ain't going to be able to get yourselves out. You're going to be fucked. And that's why I do what I do, because I have people in this fucking world that I care about, and I don't want to see getting fucked up the ass with a red, white, and blue dildo. Go ahead, Grandmaster. I'm going to give it to you, brother. You've been quiet a great majority of this broadcast. I'm going to let you run with this, brother. Go for it.
Well, Governor Stretchy Nuts has it where if you California has gotten expensive within the last 20 years. And that got Minuteman. My son's mom, she's paying $1,200 a month for a three-bedroom house. 3-bedroom and 2-bath. And that's, I mean, and a 3-acre backyard, 2-acre front yard, garage for only $1,200 a month.
And this is in Cali?
I remember over 25 years ago. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. And they're trying to have these landlords they're trying to get these landlords to drop these rent prices and stuff because you got people that are on low income and can't even make the rent.
Yeah.
And you got someone paying $900,000, $1,200, almost $1,500 a month. Like it's like these landlords are fucking crazy.
Greedy is more like it.
They I mean, also if you want to leave California, say move, you gotta pay you're leaving California? Yeah, pay a tax to leave, asshole. Oh, dude, what the hell, and that's bullshit. It's all it is just a money grab bullshit. For the last 100+ years, it's been about fucking money. So I mean, always has been.
Yeah,
always been about money.
It has.
And
yeah, I mean, isn't it? I remember a couple of years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, but when the Osborns went to move out of state, didn't the state try to tax them for leaving?
Came up with this shit.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame people for leaving. I mean, we got a lot of people who came here from California.
Yeah.
A lot of people, who worked in government agencies out in California, like for the welfare department or Social Security or whatnot. a lot of them, when they were working from home, they decided, well, the cost of living is too high in California. They moved out here where the cost of living was substantially lower. And that shot up our market. That increased the market out here exponentially. I mean, it's still a hell of a lot cheaper than California by a long shot, but still, you know, they're moving here in such droves, really kind of drove up the market here. And then Trump got into office and said, hey, everybody's got to come back to work now. You got to fill these offices. Why are we paying for these offices if you're not going to be there? So, you know, everybody's got to come back to work, but how can they come back to work in California if they're living in Tennessee? That's 2,500 miles. That's a 2,500 mile commute to and from work. Ain't happening. So, yeah, that really hit California hard too, because now all those people are out of jobs, and now those jobs need to be filled by qualified, experienced personnel, much of which they don't have, so they have to train these people, which costs money, which then gets passed on to the taxpayer in California through, you know, local sales tax and state taxes, because California is one of the states in the union that actually has state taxes. I'm thankfully in one of the states that doesn't do state taxes, thank God, just federal tax, and hopefully that'll be gone soon. But it's just getting harder and harder on people in those states. It's not just California, it's virtually every blue state. Serious reform needs to happen, or people just need to get the fuck up out. You know, I've talked to a few people who are looking to get up out of there, you know, like my friend who's looking to move to the Philippines at some point in his life. I've got a few other friends who I've talked to about these sort of things. I would seriously recommend getting the fuck up out of Dodge. You know, get out before the shit hits the fan and the fan falls on your head. Because no matter how you look at it, it's coming down hard. Whether it be economic crisis, civil unrest, a civil war, a war with Russia, just an endless string of bad scenarios is just not good for people in those areas. Like, if you can get out, do get out. And I know most of my friends out there won't listen to me because they all think I'm an idiot until I'm actually proven right. And then they go, oh, you were right, I should have listened to you. And then, you know, next time comes around and they don't listen to me. And yeah, now you wonder why I hung it up for like 5 years. Nobody listens. And then the world got stupid. And then I had a headache. So I took some aspirin and went to sleep for 5 years. God, I wish I could have said I slept for 5 years. The shit that I went through. But life sucks. Give me a fucking helmet. Grandmaster, Queenie, you got anything else you want to add before we call this a night?
No, not really.
Grandmaster, what about you, brother?
Meta. Go ahead.
Ah, it's you.
Meta may be forced to sell WhatsApp and Instagram if this SEC trial goes in favor. Yeah.
Huh. We'll get into that.
Yeah, because Meta has been working with China.
Oh, not surprising.
So the breakdown is that it looks like that Meta may be forced to sell off WhatsApp and Instagram.
I'll be damned.
And it is it's equivalent to the case against John D. Rockefeller over a century and a half ago.
Oh, no shit. That should be interesting. Gonna have to look and see how that develops.
Zuckerberg, truthfully, Zuckerberg is a Rockefeller through blood.
Told you he was a chain-smoking penguin rapist.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, do some research on that. We'll get back next week and we'll pick up on that. I still want to talk about the other topic that we were just initially going to cover this week. We'll cover that next week, and then maybe segue into most of that of what you're talking about now. But in the meantime, I think we can pretty well call it, unless you got something else you really want to get into. Nothing you want to get into?
I think we pretty much covered what was covered, and yeah, I mean we've done all this. We covered from point one to point now, so I mean we pretty much covered everything today. I mean, it's,
and we'll probably come back with maybe a midweek broadcast because I kind of feel like you were left out because of your lag on there. So I want to make sure that you get your fair amount of time. So we might come back and do like a special broadcast, maybe midweek or something, and just kind of follow up with things towards the end of the week and see how things are looking.
But I do want to say that. But I do want to say this. But I do want to say this is that you yourself do some private stuff on Rumble. So are yourself. So I mean, I've been doing that. Until you reach that 5 follower mark, we could go live fully, and we can start doing this on Rumble as well. Kind of go back and forth, you know.
We will be eventually.
Also, check out Tin Man on Rumble at Real Tin Man. Real Tin Man.
I will be. I haven't posted anything there yet, but I will.
Check me out on the Council of Generation X on Rumble, and
I don't have anything on Rumble as of yet.
It's gonna be a while before the worldwide Resistance Network gets into full gear on Rumble.
So, we're just getting reestablished at this point. So
give us some time. Give us some time to get things out of the way, squared away. So right now, for right now, we'll be on here on YouTube, and then
most everything is posted to Twitter as well.
When time comes, Tin Man will let you guys know. But it's TBA to be announced.
Yes, everything is in the works. We're pretty much just working
also
to
Twitter, X.
reestablish from
follow
nothing.
Tin Man on X. Follow myself on X at Mando6 at Mando6.
Yep. Yeah, it'll take a little time, but everything will get set up. We're just rebuilding from nothing.
Also, follow Queenie on the Devil's Queen on TikTok, YouTube.
And she's quiet.
I do not have a Rumble account.
Uh-oh. Well, we'll get everything. We're going to get everything situated. Like I said, we're just rebuilding from scratch. All that was left was when I came back was the YouTube channel. So we're rebuilding from scratch. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we'll get there. And when it's all up and ready, we'll make the announcements as we go. But till then, I think we'll just go ahead and call it. On behalf of Connor, Grandmaster, Queenie, and Zero, who wasn't able to join us today. This is the Tin Man with the Resistance. If you are watching this, you are the Resistance. And remember, every girl crazy about a sharp dressed man.